Yo, what's going on, people? This is Between the Game Sports back again. This time we have a two-time Southland Conference champion, Brette Tanner. Coach, what's going on?
What's happening, Will? I'm gonna correct you too, man. I saw that on your
Two-time?
video. Three times.
Three-time.
Man. We won it 3 times. Regular season champion, 2-time tournament.
Okay.
So
Okay.
make sure we get that out there.
Okay, got it. That first year I went to NIT, right?
Yeah, NIT, and then we won the regular season, went to NIT, and then actually twice at SFA we went to NIT when we won the regular season. My last year at SFA we won a championship too, but went to the NIT instead.
Okay, yeah, my group didn't get to experience that, so they didn't. Yeah, we're not gonna talk about that.
But. Yeah, you guys set it up though.
Yeah, we had a good group, but just kind of undisciplined, I guess you can say.
Yeah.
So we'll jump right into it, and tell the people a little bit about your background, how you got into coaching.
Sure, man. So I'm a Kansas kid. Really, I was all over, man. I had a father that was in the military, and so that's kind of how I fell into basketball. When we were overseas, when I was pre-junior high age, and they to keep me out of trouble, man, they threw me into the AYA rec league. And I fell in love with basketball immediately, man. It kind of became my love. And I think every day since that day, I've had a basketball in my hand somewhere or another, But then came back after my dad retired from the military. We moved to Kansas, which is where he had been stationed before. Then obviously anybody that knows anything about basketball knows Kansas and basketball, man.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, there's a hoop in every driveway. So it was a big deal for me. Had a really good high school team. We were a small school, but it would be equivalent to like a 3A here in Texas, but we were 4A in Kansas. Okay. But we had 3 college basketball players on that team. So you can imagine like a 3A high school here in Texas having 3 college players, Yeah. We had a lot of success, really good coaching staff, man. And that led me into, in Kansas, junior college is kind of the thing to do. It's kind of the hot thing. Back then they were, you weren't allowed to. You could only have so many out-of-state players on a junior college roster in Kansas, and so you'd have 7, 8, 9, 10 junior college coaches at every one of your games because recruiting Kansas kids was so important. Mm-hmm. I thought I was going to the league, man. I had 8 or 9 coaches at every one of my games. I thought I was big time, Mm-hmm. Went and played at Allen County Community College. It was an awesome experience. Played for a guy by the name of Ken Darding, who his son runs Darding Academies now, I think, and is still in the basketball world. But Coach Darding, he played for. You're too young, but he worked for Jack Hartman at K-State back in the day when they were really good. Mm-hmm. Learned a ton from him, and then was fortunate to go and play at Emporia State, which is a Division II school in Kansas. Played for a legend up there. If you're from Kansas, everybody knows the name Ron Slaymaker. And we got to do a lot of awesome, things there. We got to play the University of Kansas when they were number 1 in the country. Travel all over the place just because of who I played for. And then of course I got to learn a lot from him as well. And from there I always wanted to coach, man. From about junior high age, I wanted to coach. I wasn't like everybody. I wanted to play in the league first, Yeah. But I knew that I wanted to be a coach. I always thought I wanted to be a high school coach. I had an assistant coach on my high school team that I was really close with, that I really admired, and he kind of made me want to go into coaching. I kind of wanted to emulate him a little bit and make an impact on lives. But then as I started to play college basketball, I started falling in love with the college game. And so did everything I could, man, to get that first job. When my senior year, obviously by the time I was a senior in college, I knew I wasn't going to the league. So I constantly tried to network all year and find guys and talk to people. And it was hard. I didn't think I was going to get one. But August, after I graduated, it went through the whole summer. And then in August of that summer, I got a call from the guy at Fort Scott Community College who offered me a job, $2,500, man. It's what he offered me. He said, I can give you $2,500. You got to find a place to live. You got to feed yourself. And so I took the $2,500, man, and jumped on board and mowed yards, substitute taught, did everything I could just to stay in the game, and learned a ton from him. And then I was really fortunate. He left and I didn't know anybody yet. I only been coaching for 1 year. And now one of my best friends, at the time I didn't know him, but Chris Beard, who's the head coach of Texas Tech, got the job. And I was kind of just helping him through the transition, man. And he looked at me one day and said, "Hey, why don't you just stay here and work for me instead of me going out and hiring somebody? Just stay put." And so I did, and that was really my big break. I didn't know it at the time, but he's who introduced me to pretty much everybody that I know in the game. He wasn't Chris Beard back then that he is now, but he was still well connected. And then I was fortunate, man, when he left. He was there for 1 year, and he got another junior college job, Seminole Junior College in Oklahoma, and they promoted me to the head coach, man. So I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I was 23, about to turn 24. I think I had one player was 3 years older than me.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't know what I was doing, but it was an unbelievable experience. I had great kids, man, that really helped me. They learned with me. I was the head coach there for 4 years. The first 2 years were really kind of a learning experience as we went. And the last 2 years, we were pretty successful. And I took a leap of faith, basically on the advice of Coach Beard. And I took a job. I left being a head coach, and I took an assistant job at South Plains College out here in Levelland, Texas, just outside of Lubbock. Coach Beard was the assistant for Coach Bobby Knight at the Texas Tech at the time. And he introduced me to Steve Green, who's still the head coach at South Plains. And we had a great 2-year run there. And then I came and met you. Coach Casper hired me at Stephen F. Austin, and I had a long run there, man. 7 years, felt like 15, but it was 7 years. And I'd always been, Coach Beard had introduced me to Joe Golding, who's the head coach here at Abilene Christian. They were a Division II school, and they knew they were going to go Division I, and he'd asked me to come work for him. I just told him I couldn't do it. Things were too good for us at SFA, and I was comfortable. But then Coach Casper got the job at Texas State. We had spent 7 years together. Abilene Christian was making the leap that year to Division I. So I felt like it was kind of a good opportunity for me and Coach Casper to kind of split and go different directions. I wasn't necessarily leaving him. I just didn't go with him. And so I came here, jumped on, and took a leap of faith, man, to build something from the ground up. And here we are today, man. 7 years after that, living life, man, living the dream.
Gotcha. So you're at Abilene Christian now, and I think it's in Abilene, Texas.
Yes, sir.
Obviously, but for the parents out there that don't really understand, can you tell them, like, what is the day like of a basketball player at Abilene Christian, like kind of schedule wise? Sure.
Abilene is obviously we're a Division I university outside of Texas Tech. Tarleton is making the transition now, but until they fully go through it, we're one of 2 Division I schools in West Texas, man. So we're not really in West Texas. I tell everybody we're kind of the front door to West Texas. If you look on a map, Abilene's actually dead center. Everybody thinks the Metroplex is dead center, but it's really not. Abilene's the dead center of Texas. So we're kind of the front door to West Texas. But Abilene, we're a Christian university. We don't hide that fact. We don't run from it. No offense to any of the schools that kind of that are in the same boat as us, but we kind of embrace it. And so the guys that we recruit here know exactly what they're getting into. We're gonna follow a certain standard here. Our guys, we do go to chapel. Now our chapel is not what some people will try to say to us. Sometimes people will try to knock us in recruiting and say our kids have to go every day and all that. It's a chapel credit system. So we have team chapels, small group chapels. It's not like going to church, man. It's really it's an awesome experience for guys. We do a team chapel, so within the day, they're going to go to class like everybody, and then they're going to take a small break around 11 o'clock, and then they're going to go to a chapel, whether it's a small group, whether it's with a social club, fraternities on a state campus, it's a fraternity. On a private campus, it's a social club. They may go meet with their social club at that time. They may have a team chapel with their team, with our team. Sometimes they don't have to go every time. They have to get so many credits throughout the semester. And then after chapel, they'll either go back to class, go to lunch, and then right around 2 or 3 o'clock, we'll hit the floor, and after we hit the floor, they're going to go hit the weight room like everywhere else. And then that night, do some study hall. And Abilene is not your typical school. It's a high academic institution. So we don't hide from that either, man. We want guys here that want a degree. They're chasing a degree. And we feel like we can change a lot of lives, man, with guys that come here. And that's anywhere. I'm not knocking any school, but a degree from ACU, we really feel means something. Our alumni base is huge, even though we're a small school. But because we're a small school and we have a lot of people in higher level positions, whether it be the head of CBS Sports Productions is an ACU alum. Nike shoe designer is an ACU alum. Whether you're going in the business world, the communications world, whatever, we feel like we can really help you in that regard outside of basketball. And so it's a special place, man, and it's changed my life. I've always been a Christian. I grew up a Christian. My faith has always been important to me, but working here has allowed me to even get in better touch with that. I feel like we can do that with our players. We tell our guys all the time, and we're just trying to plant a seed, man. We're not going to push anything down your throat. It is what it is, We've had non-believers come play for us, but we've also had people that have had their heart changed while they were here, which is special. And so we're going to try to plant a seed and help guys, turn from boys to men, make them better husbands, fathers, sons.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. I heard you mention about practice. I remember our practices at SFA and they were intense and long. About how long do you guys practice for?
So, it depends, anywhere from 2 to 2.5 hours. It depends on the week. We're going to go longer earlier in the year because we don't have competition, and we kind of take the route. Now they've changed all the rules kind of since you were a player, where we can start way earlier. So you still get the same amount of practice days like when you did, but it used to be like we were the October 15th, and man, it was full go until that November 11th game or whatever. Yeah. Now we can start all the way in September, but you just have to take more days off. And everybody does it different. Some guys will wait. Some guys will start. We tend to start right at the beginning because it allows us to give our guys a couple days off during the week. That allows their bodies to rest and heal, and they don't get burned out as easy. But so those days we go, man, we'll go 2.5 hours, and then you'll go hit the weight room. But as we get into the season, man, obviously it slows down a little bit. We'll slowly break that down to 2 hours to an hour and a half, depending on where we're at in the season. Okay.
So parents and players that are listening, when I'm practicing with you guys, just know that hour and a half is really not nothing. And I try to tell them that to stay focused the whole time. And, kids going to be kids, so they lose focus every now and then. But with that type of practice and stuff like that, you have to have kids who are focused, who are hard driven. So when you're out recruiting, what type of kids do you look for?
It's a good, and I'll say this before I even talk on that. Now, we're a Christian school. That doesn't mean that we're going to practice light. Discipline and hard work is part of being a Christian too, man. So we get after guys just as hard as when you played for us at SFA. Our practices are intense. We're going to get after guys. We're going to push them to become better. I don't think we could have achieved the level of successes that we did here as quickly as we did if starting from the ground up, from square one, if we didn't push kids and drive kids to get better, But when we go out there and recruit, man, we're looking for somebody who, obviously, the very first recruiting call that we have, we're going to talk about what kind of school we are, that we're a Christian university. And like I said, we don't hide from that fact. And so somebody has got to know that that's what they're getting themselves into, before they even start. That's the first phone call. But when we watch a kid, we want somebody who is driven. Talent is obviously important. We're at the Division I level. We got to have good players, but we also want coachable kids, kids that have a relationship with their high school coach, with their AAU coach, with their trainer, whoever it may be. We want guys that people believe in, and that they trust in their coaches. We don't want to. If you have a problem with every coach that you've ever played for, then you're probably going to have a problem with us as well. It's not going to just change all overnight. So we dig deep, man. We do our homework, and we really try to find guys that want to get better. And again, like I said, that they want a degree, because if getting a degree is not important to you, you can survive at some other places, man, but you will not survive here. You've got to take your academics seriously to come to ACU and to play at ACU. And then we want to know, we have real conversations with guys, man. We want to know that they understand the process. This is not, if you're coming to ACU, man, it is what it is. You're not going to the University of Kansas. You're not a one and done guy. You're going somewhere for 4 years, and we want you here for 4 years. The transfer market nowadays is crazy. Everybody wants instant success. And so we have those conversations with kids. They have to have an understanding that even though we've coached 3 freshmen of the year here, we also have guys that, you know, a player for us that by the name of Jaron Lewis here at ACU that didn't quite play as much as freshman year, but by the time he was a senior, he was the MVP of the Southland Conference tournament, you know, and went to the NCAA, and he's getting ready to go back for his 3rd year as a professional, you know. We want guys that understand and know, and they're willing to learn different roles throughout their career.
Gotcha. So getting those type of guys definitely help, I guess, the overall program success. Since you've been there, I think you're going on year 8 or year 7, something like that. Mm-hmm. Just kind of tell the people about, you know, the program success.
Yeah. So obviously Abilene Christian was a Division II school. And if we're being honest, it wasn't a very good one in terms of basketball. The basketball history here, there's been some really, really good teams here. But it had been a while, you know what I mean? There's a couple 20-win seasons sprinkled in here and there, but there had never been any consistent success. And so when we took this job, and we knew it was going to be the first year in Division I, we didn't want to panic. We didn't go chase transfers and try to be good right away. We wanted guys that we redshirted some guys, but we explained to guys, we sold them on a vision, you know. And I just did an interview the other day where they were asking about our senior class that graduated a couple years ago that went to the NCAA tournament. It was a special group because they came here knowing that there wasn't any success. Mm-hmm. And so they were willing to redshirt. They were willing to take time to build it with us. And they knew they'd only have one crack at it. And they took advantage of that when it finally came. But we struggled, man. I think we didn't have a Division I win in our first year until almost February. We had played some non-ones, but we finally, I think we beat the University of Central Arkansas. And it was snowing outside, man. We all ran out in the snow, started throwing snowballs. I mean, it had been, for me, you know, I was coming from a place where we had just won 27 games and won a conference championship to not getting a Division I win until February. It was crazy. And then we just kind of slowly got better. You know, for those that aren't aware, anytime somebody transitions to Division I, there's a 4-year postseason ban automatically. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't understand that, but there's a reason behind it. You're not built for success yet. Not just on the floor, but internally with staff and all that stuff. So we went through the 4 years. We slowly got better each and every year. And then that 5th year, which is our first year of eligibility for any kind of postseason, we were able to qualify for the CIT tournament. We went and had an unbelievable basketball game, one of the best basketball games I've ever played in up at Drake University. And it was on national television. And I think, and we lost in overtime. And I think that game is really what propelled our guys to believe, okay, we can do this, you know. And we came back the next year, man. We won 27 games, and we went to the NCAA tournament, won the conference tournament, and had an unbelievable year. And we were able to maintain that this past year. We were a 20-win team again. And we didn't get a chance to play in the conference tournament. So I would say between us and SFA, and of course we had some really good teams. Who knows what would have happened? But us and SFA were the top 2 seeded teams going into the conference tournament. But we've been able to go from ground zero to where we didn't have a Division I win until February to setting a school record for wins in a season. I think over the past 2 years, we have more conference wins than anybody. I know everybody likes to talk about SFA, and SFA is an important place to me and to you, obviously. You graduated from there, and I could have graduated from there twice as much time as I spent there. But obviously with everything they've done, a lot of people talk about, we've actually won more conference games over the past 2 years than anybody in the Southland Conference. Mm-hmm. And we've won more total games than anyone in the Southland Conference over the last 2 years as well. So it's an exciting time to be a part of Abilene Christian.
Mm-hmm. I think I seen something where y'all are first or second in the state of Texas and wins overall in the last couple of years. So going from ground zero and to being on top and you see that side of it, the fans get to see all the wins and stuff like that. But tell them about like the business side of coaching that, you know, folks don't really seem to understand or get a grasp of. Like, what does it take to be a Division I coach?
Sure. Patience, man. It's like anything. It's the same as a player that any young kid watching this, man, that's trying to get a college scholarship and needs to understand, man, that that you got to have patience. You're not going to go in your first year probably and set the world on fire unless you're a top 100 player. It's going to take you time, and the reason the transfer market is what it is today is because people want instant success.
Exactly.
I think we've been fortunate here that we haven't had any transfers in the last 5 years. I think we had one, but that was somebody who knew he was going to struggle to graduate from here. So we actually helped him, and I still stay in touch with the young man today. But so one transfer in my 7 years here or whatever is an amazing thing. Part of that's our head coach, who's an unbelievable man. But anyway, the business side of it's the same. I think anybody who's wanting to get into coaching has to understand. Like I said, my first job was I took a $2,500 stipend, man, $2,500, not a month, for the year. And then I got a raise my second year to $9,000, and they actually gave me a dorm room. I thought I was rich, and then but it takes patience, man. I worked extremely hard at this, and it took me over a decade, to reach this level, and then I just be happy where you're at. I have a quote on my board in here that says, "Be here now, man. Don't ever start thinking about the future. What can my next job be, or where." I think a lot of coaches make that mistake, and just be here now, where you are now. Be there, man. Make it the best job that you have, and I'm content. Yeah, I want to be a head coach someday, but I work for an unbelievable man at an unbelievable university. We coach unbelievable kids. This has been the best part of my coaching career the last few years, just because of the whole thing and who I get to be around every day. And so if you're happy and you're I get to do what I do for a living, man. How blessed am I to be able to do this for a living, So it's patient. Everybody's got to have patience, man, and then understand that you're not going to get rich doing this. It doesn't matter what level you coach at. Don't read the headlines, man, of the top 10% of college coaches. Those are the guys making the money. The rest of us, man, are doing this because we love it. We love being around kids, and we love impacting lives.
Yeah, I remember you used to tell us, like in study hall and stuff like that, sometimes find you a career that you love and it doesn't feel like work. That's just kind of always stuck with me, and I try to carry that with me all the time. For those that don't know, this dude helped me graduate, helped me stay on track. So I'm always appreciative of what he did for me. With the kids kind of being off campus, I don't even know if y'all have players on campus or can y'all right now?
Right now, everything's voluntary, so we don't have anybody. We have a kid that's from here, so obviously he's around, and we have a kid from San Angelo, which is just outside of town. So, but other than that, all of our players are at home. Hopefully, they'll be back in the month of July. Okay,
gotcha. So, with that, with the situation of the coronavirus and then society kind of being in an uproar, how's the staff overall kind of handling players? Just kind of talking to them and whatnot.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. When this whole thing started, we were down in Katy, Texas, man, getting ready to tee it off, man, in the conference tournament. And so we came back, and then everybody dispersed. And I called every one of our players yesterday just to touch base with them, and I was talking to one of them, and I said, I think this is the longest that I've ever been away from a team in 20 years of coaching. I don't think I've ever been this long. We've already been the length of a full summer. You know what I mean? And so, but what we've been doing, man, it started as just kind of, we did some Zoom calls like everybody else, and they were okay. And we just talked about what was going on in the world and all that stuff. And then kind of what the recent events of what's been going on in our country and all over the world, our conversations have gotten more serious, and I think that, one thing here, you heard me talk about my boss, our head coach, Joe Golding. He's a special person, man. He is intentional in building relationships. And so, which is why I love being in this program so much. Like, it is more important to him that he builds a real relationship with each one of his players than it is to go win 20 games. We're proud of the success that we've had. But I would argue that the reason we've had so much success is because of the relationships that our staff has with our players. And it's intentional, and it starts from the top with our head coach. And so I mentioned that because he really was on his heart to really to get into this. And obviously I won't get into the stuff that we've talked about, but we've had real hard conversations, with guys. And we've allowed them to have conversations with one another, just about everything, man. The virus that's going on, being, everybody's dealing with something different, anxiety from being locked up or not being able to do what they want to do every day, being apart from each other. And we're very fortunate that I think, and Will, you were a good player and you played for a good program. And so you understand this, man, that if everybody would just take a look at a team, any team, and model, if we could model society after teams, man, we'd all be okay. I mean, it's just not a thing that you think of when you're on a team, and so we've had those conversations. I think that's all you can do is try to, and not really speak at your players, but allow them to speak to you and speak to each other and just kind of sit back and listen. You know what I mean? And I have 2 teenagers myself right now, and so I've included them in some of this, because I'm trying to raise them just like I'm, just like we're trying to help our players, I'm trying to help my own kids. And so we're trying to get everybody involved, our families and everybody.
Gotcha. I'm glad you mentioned some of that stuff. Let me go back to one thing I wanted to say earlier. I've always told kids that I coach and, about college coaches kind of dealing with the business side. I want to get a yes or no answer from you from this. I always say that college coaches, football, whether it be basketball, football, baseball, whatever, you kind of be crazy, I guess you can say a little bit, to let your career be involved with 20-year-olds and 18-year-olds and people like that. So what do you think about that? Like, kind of be saying a little bit.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is that a lot of guys are chasing their career rather than focusing on the people that they're in charge of right now. The way I believe, and I think a good majority of coaches believe, the majority of us, I think we're in this to make an impact on the lives of the people that are entrusted to us. I think God put me in this profession for a reason. And so. We want to make an impact on the lives of the people that come through our program. We want to have real relationships, man. I hope 15 years from now, I'm doing another interview with a former player, man, that's out there trying to do what you're doing. We want to stay. Now, can we talk every day? Of course not. We all grow up, man, and we all we have our own lives, but we want to stay in touch. And I think that if the mark of a great coach, man, is the relationships that he has with his players. I have a player that's very special to me. Played on my very first team as a head coach back in 2000, so 20 years ago, man. And so I hung up with him the other day, man, and got emotional, because we were talking about what we just talked about, what's going on in the world today and society, and he lives in Georgia, and we were talking about a bunch of different stuff, and I got emotional because of the relationship that I still have with that young man, and he's impacted my life as much as he's impacted, or as much as I've impacted his, and now he's coaching and he's teaching and he's talking about the things that, I don't think I did a very good job coaching his team. It's probably the worst coaching job I ever did. I was a first-year head coach, and he's talking about the things that he learned, and that stuff's important, and I think the majority of coaches, that is what they're trying to do. But you have to be careful, man. You have to take a step back. We're human, and so every once in a while, you do start to fall off track and think about your career maybe a little bit more, and you have to kind of be yanked back. But usually the good Lord does a good job of doing that for you,
Yeah. I'm glad you said that. And this is year 7, I believe, there at ACU, and then you spent 7 years at SFA. What's the biggest difference in coaching there and then compared to coaching at SFA?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. Obviously, in the same league or the same level, all that good stuff, but it's very different. Obviously, the major difference is we're a Christian university, small private Christian university, where SFA is 14,000 students or whatever it is, a state university. One's in East Texas, one's in West Texas. There's cultural differences there too, but at the end of the day, it's still 15 players, 4 or 5 coaches, and you're rolling the ball out there, man, and getting after it with each other. But I'd say that's the biggest difference, is just that we're able to do things here that you can't do at a state school, and that's be intentional. At a state school, and again, it's not anybody's fault, but there's regulations, there's rules, man. You got to be careful. what you do and what you talk about. Here, we can be open books, man. We can pray with our team and not worry about it. We can talk about it in an open environment and not fear, an administrator coming down saying you got to be careful. We're a state school. You can't talk about stuff like that. We can do things out. I mean, it's just there's more freedom. I guess that's maybe is not the right word, but there's more freedom at a private university where you don't have some of the state guidelines, and the regulations kind of looking over you. You know what I mean? It has nothing to do with basketball. The basketball is what it is. And do we have to try to maybe chase a different kind of kid? I mean, we're recruiting the same kind of kids that we were recruiting at SFA, man. When we were at SFA, we were recruiting good guys anyway, good people. And so guys that wanted a degree, and that's exactly what we're doing here.
Okay. So you just talked about recruiting again. When you're out and about, I guess during a live period, about how many miles do you think you travel?
Man, oh man.
I don't think people really understand what coaches go through, especially coming from way out there. Maybe trying to get Houston, it's hard to see kids.
This is the time of year, man. We're usually all over the place. I've dealt with some anxiety myself, man, because I'm stuck. You know what I mean? I feel like I need to be in a gym somewhere. But I've been. Me and my kids were just talking about this a couple months ago, man. I think I've touched every state in the continental U.S., a couple countries. You know what I mean? And so I couldn't even guess the miles, man. When I was at SFA, we were kind of landlocked, man. There was no airport, and so I drove everywhere. So man, I put a lot of miles on those wheels. But here, I'm fortunate enough. We have a regional airport here, so I can jump on a small plane and we can fly some places. But we've been everywhere, man. We're going to recruit. We're like I said, we're a private Christian university. We have alumni all over the country, and so we recruit all over the country. Where when it's different now, it's a different staff at SFA now. But when I was there, we tried to draw a little 500-mile radius around the campus, and that's where we wanted to focus. And quite honestly, when I came here, I tried to recruit the crud out of the state of Texas, and nobody would listen to us. They still looked at us as kind of a bad Division II school. All those good friends I had, man, that were calling me every day trying to get me to recruit their players weren't calling me anymore, even answering my calls. So we could cross the border in Oklahoma, and a kid would love to hear from us. And so we really expanded our recruiting efforts through that transition period. Now we're kind of back, man. People will listen to us. They'll take our phone calls again. But so we've had kids from Florida all the way to D.C. to, we got an Australian kid where I didn't physically go, but, a member of our staff actually went all the way out to, during the live period, to watch the FIBA stuff. And so you're going to travel, that's for sure. But that's part of the cool. As long as it's hard because I have a family and I want to be around my family and my kids, but I also love the travel. I love getting to meet people, getting to meet families from all different backgrounds, man. It's something I really enjoy about the job.
Yeah. So with recruiting, and when you're going out and you're talking to kids, do you ever mention about scheduling, what type of games they'll be playing in and stuff like that? Yeah,
that's a good question too, man. So we tell everybody, man, we can't promise it, but what we can promise is that we're going to try to get at least one game back where your family can see you play in person, without traveling. We're going to try to get one game back home. Now, our kids from Texas and Oklahoma and all, that's easy, that game in Abilene is one they can drive to, but we try, and we've been successful here. We did the same thing when we were at SFA. That was something we was important to us. I do the scheduling here for us, and so every year I am trying to get somebody back home if I can. We played at Wichita State. We obviously, with my background, and Coach Bosick, who played at SFA, is on our staff here. Both of us are from Kansas, and so we recruit Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma pretty heavy. We went and played Wichita State last year because we had 4 or 5 guys on our roster, that were within driving distance of there. And a great story, man. We had a kid, Jaron Lewis, the kid I mentioned earlier, was from Orlando, Florida. And every year, man, the reason we can't promise it is because scheduling is a two-way street. You get too good and nobody wants to play you. Us in SFA right now still need 4 games. So if anybody knows anybody, give me a call. But so we were trying to get him back, and we could never get him back, man. And going into his senior year, I called him in my office. I said, man, I couldn't. I tried. I called everybody in Florida, guarantee games, home and homes. It didn't matter. We were a Division I school in Florida. I even crossed over the Georgia border a little bit, thinking maybe that would be close enough to get him home, and we just could not get anybody to play. And so I apologized to him, and said, I'm sorry, you're the first player, man, in maybe 15 years that I haven't been able to get a game for. And then we went on to win the conference tournament, and we were watching Selection Sunday, man, and we draw Kentucky in Jacksonville, Florida. And so the first thing, man, it's crazy. Everybody's excited. We're playing Kentucky, and we're the primetime game at 6 p.m., that everybody's going to watch. And the first thought that came in my mind, man, was I got Jaron home. Like we did it, man. We got him home. And me and him and Brette, we had a huge hug, man. Like he got to, not only did he get to go play a game, he got to play the biggest game of his career at home. And he had a slew of people there, man. It was awesome. And but so my perfect record is still intact, man, thanks to the NCAA. But we're going to try to get somebody a game, every, and then of course we're going to play high level games. We're going to play mid-major games. We're going to play a few non-ones. But so we talk about our schedule quite a bit.
Gotcha. A lot of the parents that I talk to, they don't really understand that part, the scheduling. It's hard, like you said, trying to get the other school to agree and be a part of that. Is y'all location kind of an issue? I know at SFA we couldn't get games in because you either had to fly to Houston or you had to fly to Dallas, and then you had to drive. Yeah. Stay in a hotel. So I know I think we missed out on some games with bigger schools. I guess you can say, was the location a factor into that?
It was a huge factor at SFA, and it's been a huge factor here as well. And then when you get good, that even piles on top of that, when you're no good, like when I first came here, man, I was done with our schedule in November. I mean, people were calling me. I didn't have to call anybody. But now, like I said, we still need 4 games, and I think SFA still needs 4 games. And we like to say it's just because we're good, but it's also because of our location, man. And sometimes your fans have a hard time understanding that. Like, why don't we have better games at home? Well, if we're going to get a good home game, like we have Drexel University coming to Abilene, this coming year, but we're going to have to go out to Philadelphia first, and then that costs money, and a lot of people, even though we have an airport here, a lot of people, it's a little more expensive to fly into Abilene. You can't fly direct; you have to fly into DFW first, and then get on another plane. So it's very similar to SFA. A lot of times, people feel like, well, I got to fly into Dallas, and then I got to bus 2.5 hours, and some of the bigger programs can maybe afford it, but nobody's really flying private planes for their teams anymore. Everybody was kind of doing that at the mid-major level for a while, and then now they've gotten away from that, especially now with the financial cuts everybody's going to take with the virus. But so nobody's going to be flying on private planes for a while probably. But it's a challenge for sure. Scheduling is, and you mentioned it, man. Getting other people. All of us coaches, man, when it comes to scheduling, we're all cowards, man. Nobody wants to play. Every head coach in the country wants that guaranteed win, there's no such thing as a guaranteed win. Anybody can beat you. That's why we play the games. And so it's hard to get people once we're kind of in scheduling. I was telling somebody yesterday, we're in scheduling purgatory right now. Like first, you're now it's the net, used to be the RPI. Nobody wanted to play you because you might be good enough to beat them, but it was going to kill their RPI. And now it'll kill their net if they lose a game to you, or even if they just play you and beat you. And now we've gotten good now, so nobody wants to play us because we're in that middle. But if we can take that next step, which is what some other schools have done, and start beating some of those teams on a regular basis that we do get to play us, now all of a sudden people do want to play you because now you're actually a good game. Like you're going to help their net ranking. And we've been fortunate here, just like we were at SFA when we were back there, that we've been able to win some guarantee games, which makes it hard to get guarantee games. But that's starting to help us in the scheduling a little bit.
Gotcha. So the scheduling part, we talked about that. Just basketball in general. Overall, what changes would you like to see in basketball from any sport, from the NBA down to college, down to AAU?
Yeah, I think number one, man, I think transparency. You know what I mean? Like let's all be open about what we're doing and how we're doing things. But I would like to see in the college game specifically. I would like to see conferences get back to what they used to be. whatever it was 10 years ago when all the conferences started going crazy and everybody was chasing dollars and TV contracts. And now you got guys that like the Sun Belt Conference, man. I mean, the fact that Texas State has to fly all the way out to South Carolina to play a conference basketball game is ridiculous. There's no rivalries anymore. Even the Southland Conference even is one that's still kind of local, so we have real rivalries within our league. You even see it in the Big 12. And West Virginia's in the Big 12. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me, and I would like to see maybe some of that come back around where you see more leagues being more regional, where you can get back to some of those real rivalries. I mean, the old rivalry, with Sam for you, and for us, we've kind of created a rivalry now with SFA just because we've been, and Sam both. I mean, those are all three of us are kind of in a bit of a rivalry over the last couple of years because we've kind of come to their level. But it's because our fans can communicate and our fans can go to the games and they can be there. You go on the road and you have your fans there. But in the Sun Belt, Texas State or UTA get on a plane, they go somewhere. There's no UTA fans in the gym because they can't get to South Carolina. I'm just using the Sun Belt as an example. It's every league in America. I mean, the WAC is all over the country, and you got teams in California and Montana and Chicago, and it's not the Western Athletic Conference. It's everywhere. So I'd like to see that happen, and eventually, I don't know if it will or not, but other than that, man, just get back to what we used to do, man. Just love the game, man. Do it because you love to play. You love to be around it. I can't play anymore. I just love being around it, man. And I think too many people in this business now are in it for different reasons. They're chasing dollars and they're chasing fame, and that's ultimately not going to end well. And so I'd like to just in general, that's everything. That's any league, any sport. I think let's get away from the business side of it and get back to really impacting young people's lives, man.
Yeah, the joy of it is what you're
absolutely.
I see that in AAU basketball all the time, especially in Houston. There's a lot of, I call it like avoiding people. They don't want to compete anymore. And it's not even from the kids. Sometimes it's from the coaches.
Mm-hmm.
They're so worried about winning games, which I totally understand. You want to win games, but just let the kids play. And one thing I would like to see Texas adopt, maybe even in high school, using the shot clock.
Yeah.
I really think it helps kids' development. I want to ask you, how much reteaching do you guys have to do once you get the kid on campus? Because I know, like even when I was training today, I'm trying to tell kids, you got a triple threat, you got to be able to, make your movements precise, but they're so used to kind of, going through the motion. How much reteaching do you guys have to do?
Quite a bit. And it's crazy. When I was coming up, man, in the 90s, we were all extremely fundamental. We went to basketball camps and learned how to play, learned the fundamentals of everything. And now, and I love, let me put this out there. I love the summer circuit, man. I think it's great because kids get to play. And it gets them an opportunity to be seen, where when I was growing up, that was the negative side of it. You only got recruited regionally, because that's the only people that could see you play. So I think it's all great, but we do have to reteach a lot of fundamentals here, and I think it drives a bunch of kids crazy, because they don't understand the importance of it. But we're very similar to when you came through SFA. I mean, we got to teach V cuts, L cuts. We had one of the best players in the league last year, a kid named Peyton Ricks, was one of the best shooters in the country the last 2 years. We had to teach him, and he came from a very good high school program, but we had to teach him how to be a cutter. By the time he graduated this past year, he was one of the best cutters in college basketball, which in turn made him one of the best shooters in college basketball. Because he became a great cutter, people couldn't just face. I mean, my son was a junior last year, going to be a senior in high school, man. And the last couple of games of the year, they just put a guy on him, they face guarded him, and he couldn't get a shot off. And he's coming home frustrated. And I'm saying, well, man, learn how to use a screen. You know what I mean? Like, do you not come watch us practice? And so, I mean, I felt terrible. I mean, he's a coach's kid, dude. He didn't know how to play, but like those kind of fundamentals are the things that we have to teach. You know what I mean? I mean, guys, everybody can shoot, everybody can can run and jump and do all that stuff. Now it's the fundamentals that have kind of gotten lost are how to be a great cutter, how to get open, how to get somebody else open. With our offense that we run, that's extremely important, and then sharing the basketball is something that we have to reteach to an extent. And
everybody used to having the ball in their hand.
Right. And so we got to teach some of that. But going back to recruiting, though, that's something we recruit programs where we know we spend a lot of time. Obviously, we watch them on the circuit and we go out there, and that's where you recognize their talent. And toughness is a talent, by the way. If anybody's listening, I want people to hear that. It's not just about shooting and dribbling and running and jumping, man. Toughness is a talent. It's probably the number one talent that I look for is toughness. But we look at programs. When we go to their high school practices, we are looking to see what kind of practice are they in, how are they being taught? How hard is it going to be for us to take this kid and incorporate him into our program, and so that goes back to recruiting too. We recruit summer programs, and I won't mention any names, obviously, but we had a lot of players, not only in our program when we were at SFA together, but also here that come from a lot of the same programs. And that's not just the state of Texas; that's all over the country because we know that those kids come prepared. There's a lot of unbelievable coaches, man, on the summer circuit, and so there's guys that we recruit that I will call and just say, "Who do you want me to watch?" Because I will take one of your players, and to a man, all those guys have been good players for us, no matter where I've been.
Gotcha. So you said recruiting players. What about, I try to get my parents to understand this. While you're watching a kid play, do you also kind of see what's going on in the crowd with parents?
No doubt. And I had this conversation with my wife sometimes because she's a parent, in the stands. But, I'm very intentional when I watch my kids play to sit in a corner because I know that as I'm out there recruiting, what am I noticing, and we want to know that we're going to have a real relationship with the parents too. One where there's going to be a common understanding that when you send your son here, yes, you're involved, but you're entrusting us to coach your son, and you're not going to continue to coach your son. I mean, you can do everything you need to, but we need people that are going to be on the same page as us, and we're going to have an open line of communication with the families. But we know if a parent is allowing their son or daughter, to be coached, then they're going to do the same here, at our level, and it's going to be one less problem that we have to deal with.
Gotcha. I meant to talk about this earlier. Oops, wrong button. I meant to talk about this earlier as far as the kind of recruits you got, requirements to get into Abilene Christian, as far as like SAT scores and ACT scores and overall GPA. Like parents don't really understand that sometimes. That's really important. Yeah.
So if you can qualify with the NCAA, then you can get into school at Abilene Christian. But it's got to be a special situation for us to recruit somebody who just barely qualifies. Because again, we're not just bringing somebody here to play basketball, man. We're bringing them here to get their degree, and we don't want to make a mistake and bring somebody here who can't handle the work academically. And ACU is a tough school, man. You've got to go to class. You're not taking 12 online classes a semester and doing all that. I mean, you're gonna sit in class and you're gonna go and you're gonna learn and you're gonna have to make up work when we're on the road. And so we've got to know that they're prepared. And now, have we taken guys? Absolutely, because there's situations all the time, man, where we had a young man that graduated in 4 years from here that barely qualified, but we knew that he had the tools, man. He had a great family support system. He had a great high school coach that continued to support him when he was here. We knew all that was going to help him, when he got here. And so we're looking for all of that. But, it's just the test scores now is a sliding scale based on your GPA. And I think people need to understand that it's not a specific score that you need. It's your core GPA, and that's not your high school GPA. It's the GPA with your core, classes, which your high school counselor, their high school counselor should be able to tell them what their core classes are. So but if you can qualify, then you can get in here. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to succeed here. And we've got to know that you've got a good support system, no matter who it is. It doesn't have to just be mom and dad. It can be uncles, brothers, coaches. You know what I mean? Summer coaches, anybody. If you've got a good support system, then you can be successful.
Gotcha. Two more questions, I guess you can say. One, you talked about pretty much like the family situation that y'all have for as a team. Have y'all talked with y'all players about trying to come up with something like going to vote this year?
Absolutely. And so, it's kind of crazy, man. We were having this conversation kind of before all this happened a little bit, not with our team yet, but amongst our coaching staff. I remember that. So back, I can't remember. It was when Obama first won. It was that election. I can't remember the year. I'm drawing a blank. But Coach Casper was actually very aggressive, and he had this idea. He made all of our players register to vote, and we took that day off, which is what everybody's talking about now. He was kind of ahead of the game in that, and we took that day off, and we took our whole team down to vote. But before that happened, when he came up with this idea for our team, he actually contacted the NABC, which is our National Association of Basketball Coaches, and started a whole initiative that year to get everybody to do this. And this is kind of what everybody's talking about now. He was doing this back in the early 2000s. Yeah, and so I had remembered that, and so we were kind of talking about that, and it hadn't had a serious conversation about it. Just kind of mentioned it back and forth, and then when all of this happened, we said absolutely that's something we're going to do, and so I think we brought it up in our last team Zoom call. I can't remember if we did or not. I think we did, but if we didn't, we're going to bring it up in the next one. But now it's kind of becoming a national movement. I think we will take election day off. We will not practice that day. Our guys will be registered to vote, and we'll make sure everybody gets down to the polls and does their duty, man.
Civic duty, man. I'm glad to hear that. I remember growing up, I really didn't take voting seriously until I was able to vote. Didn't really understand how big it was and how important it was. So that's a great thing. And you spoke on this earlier about that relationship you have with your first kid, one of your first players. What is still your biggest joy from coaching?
I think that's it, man. It's the relationships. I had a player, the shooter that I was talking about, that played for us. That was one of the best shooters in the country. Unbelievable player, man. Unbelievable person. I actually went to high school with his mom. So it was kind of a scary recruiting process. Me and his dad played against each other in junior college, and so there was some connections there, which some people would think, well, that would make it easy. That actually makes it really hard, But the relationship I have, me and him have our own relationship now, to where he can pick up the phone, he can call me, we can talk about things, and I think just knowing, even the guys. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and say that every single player that plays for you, you're going to be able to maintain a relationship with. That's impossible, But to know that that I can pick up the phone and call one of those guys, that their number is in my phone, that they'll help me or I'll help them. Anybody who's ever played for me, man, could call me and ask a favor, and I'm going to do it if it's physically possible. And that's that relationship still, man, to me is the biggest joy. And I would say that maybe there was a small period in my coaching career where I lost that a little bit. That's what I got into it for. That's what I was doing it for. And then I kind of lost that for just a brief moment, man. And then getting back to that and maintaining that, I don't ever want to lose that again. And I think that's the biggest joy. And I'm so glad that I work for a guy that's intentional about that. I think a lot of people, every team, doesn't matter what sport, they break, they say family, and they do this. It's almost become kind of cliche, and there's not real, a lot of those places, there's not real relationships there, man. It's just it's a buzzword. And, but we truly do. And to hear like some of the interviews that our guys have done, and they talk about, one of the first things they talk about is the real relationships that they've built, with their coaches and with their teammates, here. And then talking with some of the other stuff that's going on out there right now, seeing a lot of players come and support one of their coaches, because of relationships that they've built after the fact. You know what I mean? After their playing days were over, and just sitting here talking to you, it's a joy for me, man. To know that every player, man, is a life that I've been a part of. You know what I mean? Whether a small part or a huge part, it doesn't matter. That's always going to be the biggest joy for me.
Gotcha. It was kind of weird. Like, I didn't know whether to call you to do this or not, but I'm sure glad that you accepted it and supporting me and stuff like that. So I appreciate you for helping me out with this. A couple of rapid fire questions, I guess you can say, 1 or 2 words, just kind of describing the question. Your wife and kids.
Special people. to be able to live this life with me, man. Special people, man.
Gotta be. Kobe Bryant, I always ask people about that because he was huge this year in his loss. So Kobe Bryant.
Ultimate competitor, man. Respected. I'm an MJ guy, so I'll always be an MJ guy. Nobody's ever going to convince me different, but I respected so much how competitive that dude was, and what a leader he was,
Mm-hmm. That's pretty much what everybody says about him, and
yeah.
It just goes to show you how hard that he worked to be the apex, of his game. Stephen F. Austin.
Yeah, it's still a special place, even though it's kind of a rivalry for us. It's weird for me every time I walk in there and see some of those banners that I was a part of hanging in the rafters. And I met a lot of really good people there, man, that are still around, that I'm still good friends with. And then again, the players, that the relationships that we built there, the hard times we went through, and then the championships that we went through. A lot of people don't realize this, man. People forget this about Stephen F. Austin, that now you guys had it going before I showed up. You guys had won some games and done some things, but Stephen F. Austin, when I got there, I didn't realize this, man, until Coach had told me that it was the only school in the Southland Conference that had never won a regular season championship or gone to the NCAA tournament. It's where I almost took a step back, like what, because I knew he had a couple of 20-win seasons, you know what I mean, and they had been good, but they were the only team in the Southland Conference, and the Southland has a little different look to it now. There's some of these teams weren't in it, but that had never been to the NCAA tournament or won a championship, and so we were able to be a part of a first there, which was just as big here. I mean, we were a part of a first here, but we were a part of a first there, so. Special, being just the experience there, man, and being able to understand. Of course, it was my first Division I job, so it'll always be a special place to me.
Understood. So leaving that and going over to the school you're at now, Abilene Christian.
Yeah, again, man, it's just it's a special place that not just our program, but I think as a university, they're intentional about planting seeds in young lives, man, to change people, and not change people, but to help them grow. To help them grow into good husbands, fathers, brothers, and same thing, good mothers, Christian leaders, man. It's the first place I've ever been that is so intentional in that, where our student athletes, our students, you don't have to be an athlete, but they eat dinner at professors' houses, and I think being a smaller university with 5,000 students, helps with that. You can't do that with everybody when you got 15,000 students, but that's what makes this place special.
Understood. Last one. Expectations for the 2020 season, 2021 season.
Yeah. Hopefully we're able to go forward, with no craziness. But I think the expectations are pretty high here. We've, the players that have come through here and came here that were sold on a vision that wasn't reality yet, created that reality to now where, we have set the school record for wins, and we have gone to the NCAA tournament. We have had back-to-back 20-win seasons, and now it's expected. So the guys that are in this locker room are expected to have successful years, to win, to compete for championships. You can't win a championship every year, but they're expected to compete for a championship every year, whether that's fair or not. That's been created. But I do believe we have 10 players back from last year's team that won 20 games. We lost some unbelievable young men that were not only good players but great leaders. So I don't think we're just quite where everybody thinks we're at just yet, but we have an unbelievable group of young men coming back. We have some great leaders in this program that are going to still be here, and I think that championship's always your goal, but as long as we can trust the process, get better every day, and ultimately build real relationships, man, that are going to hopefully last a lifetime, man, we'll be successful.
Got it. So parents and players out there, I hope you paid attention. Coach Brette Tanner, he gave great insight on college basketball and other things like that. Coach, I want to thank you for your time. I tell them all the time is something you can't get back. So it's a great gift, and I appreciate you. You can say whatever you need to say.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you thinking of me and having me on here. I'll do anything for you, man. If you call, I'll be there, dude. And that goes for anybody. All of your teammates, everybody that not just the guys that played here, but the guys that I coached at SFA. But I'm proud of you, man. I'm proud of what you're trying to do here. I know people are going to latch on to this. I think you're doing a great service for people, and I know that people are going to start watching and get after this. And I'm proud of you, man. I'm glad to be a part of it.
Appreciate you, Coach. All right, people, we're going to get out of here. Until next time. Peace.